Scalping was difficult for me until I started implementing little ideas here and there in my trading that I've learned over the years from talking to multiple successful traders, and they're just my own trial and error. I'm going to show my screen here in just a second and show a trade I executed on, and I want you to follow along. So make sure to download the case study below. It's free, and it'll show you a layout of the trade itself, the thought process behind it, and how I'm planning. That way you can follow along or just use it for later after you're done watching this video. So the first idea is making sure that you start on the high time frame and then work your way down to the lower time frame. Now, what I mean by this is you want to start on the weekly chart, and usually I like to draw what I see. And I like to draw trend lines, support, resistance, anything that is important to me. In this case, I immediately see a little downtrend line forming, a little downward channel forming, and then big picture, there's a potential uptrend line right here. It's easy to see this, right? I'm just trying to see what is the big picture telling me. It's a little bullish in my personal opinion. We go to the daily, and then I start to notice on the daily an almost similar pattern as the weekly. So if we go in the daily and we zoom in here, what sticks out to me is something like this, another downward channel. And then if we go to the 4 hour, I'm just constantly going down the time frames, and I'm trying to figure out what is the chart telling me. I don't try to form a bias. I let the lines form the bias for me. So as of now, I'm thinking this is a potential short because of how it's forming up on the current day. The big picture, it does look kind of bullish. We are pulling back. I could see a potential buy at this area of support near the trend line and then ride it back up, but we're not there. So if we zoom in, now we're on the 4 hour. Then I go to the 1 hour, and sometimes I'll stop there for a while if something pops out to me. In this case, I really don't see too much popping out at me, but on this 1 hour chart, I do notice that we have a nice little resistance zone right here. And keep in mind, before this trade happened, this has not happened yet. So let's go ahead and delete that from the chart. There we go. We're going to go back in time here for a second. I want to take this time to say thank you to our sponsor, Cobra Trading. Cobra Trading is the go-to broker for day traders and short sellers. And I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, Benzinga awarded Cobra Trading as the go-to broker for short selling. They have a heavy focus on direct market access order routing, so you have the fastest execution. They have some of the best locate prices and availability. They also have amazing customer service. I've experienced many different brokers, and it's why I use them every single day and why I'm proud to have them as our sponsor. Sign up now by clicking the Be The Trader referral link below and earn 1 free month of software with Cobra and 25% off all commissions. Now let's get back to the show. You'll notice that this area is important to me because I'm thinking, okay, if it's in a downward channel, and we're opening right around this area and then we get a pop, I could be thinking about shorting, risking off of this line. Now, the next idea that I really want to hit home is you need to figure out where you are wrong. Before I dive into where I think I would be wrong, let me go ahead and finish walking down the chart. Go to the 30-minute, 15. In the 15, I see something similar. You could even say there's a potential trend being formed right here, but also cracking, so more signal that you might want to be short, right? Everything's lining up. And then I notice that there's a potential area of support right here, which also acted as resistance. As you can see, support right here, resistance right here. These two areas, that makes sense to me. So I'm going to be paying attention to that as well. And then we have potential trend, as you can see here, right in this area. So I want to see the entire picture, and I'm taking my time with this because I want you to kind of see how I analyze a chart all the way through before I even execute the trade or even plan it. The first major idea is start at the high time frame and go down to the lower time frame. Now that we have that done, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So right now it's pre-market, 15 minutes before the open. This is when I start to plan my executions. What I immediately want to do is ask myself before I even put a trade on, where am I wrong? I know that I'm interested in this area right here, which is why I have the horizontal line, horizontal resistance. It's very important. I like to use that as my entry area. But we also have this little crossroads here. So it's a great opportunity for an entry. You see all this action happening? I love multiple signals. So confluence is there. If you can find confluence, meaning two different things, in this case, three different things lining up, the higher the probability that I am going to take that trade and be right on that trade. So keep that in mind. If you can find confluence, that's where you want to be entering. Since we know confluence is right there, now I got to ask myself, where am I wrong? Sometimes I like to draw it out. So like if we get a pullback, push, and we get a pop right here, I can see that happening. That doesn't look unhealthy. If we get a pop, push, that to me looks very strong, and I might not want to be in that trade anymore. So usually I like to just kind of get an idea, especially if it's at the open, what an ugly chart would look like to indicate that I'm wrong. And I want to make sure that that's at a key area of resistance or support. So as you can see here, there's an area of interest. If we draw this line, if it breaks above here and goes something like this, I think I'm just wrong and it's no longer a short. In fact, it could start to consolidate and go higher. That's how I'm visualizing this trade. If I'm going to enter at this area, I'm going to make sure that my stop is right above the 61.38. And here's the other idea. When you know where your stop is, because you're asking yourself, where are you wrong? Make sure to remember that. Not where am I uncomfortable? Where am I down on the trade? Like that's all, it's going to interfere with your trading. Where are you wrong? Especially at the open, because the open at 9:30 Eastern time, it is so volatile. So you also want to give yourself some extra room. Now, if this was in the middle of the day, I might not be as loose with the trade. I may be a little bit more tighter, but the opening day of the trade, especially the first 30 minutes, please give yourself enough room to be wrong. You got to be careful and you got to size appropriately. So now that I know where I'm wrong at, it's going to be right at this line, this little white line. Then I can start to plan my trade. I can start to say, okay, if I'm going to enter here and I'm going to risk here, I need to make sure I take the appropriate amount of shares that will determine my 1R loss. So if you're wondering what 1R is, I like to talk about R's because at the end of the day, if I risk 100, 1,000, 10,000, $1, $2 to make 3x, it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's small or big. And I want you to understand that. Stop comparing yourself to everyone else. That's why we focus on R. If you join our Discord, we focus on R there as well. It's free. You need to focus there because then you can learn from others. Because if you see some dude trade 10,000 shares and he makes 2-3 pennies and he's risking 1-to-1 best case scenario, he might make a lot more than you, but that's not good trading. He might be risking way too much to make not enough for the risk. So you need to make sure you focus on executing well. And that's what I want to hit on. Your goal, once you set up your plan, we know we want to enter here. We know we want to risk in this area. So now what we need to do is make sure that we focus on execution. We cannot control if it's going to work. We can't. So let me show you this. If this stock decides to push up and then hold right here for a little bit, executing well means I only get out when this is breached. That's what I mean. Not because I'm uncomfortable, because this could easily hold and then crack. And now we have a very clear area that held as support and now it could act as resistance. So you need to be patient. And you need to focus on executing. The only thing you can't control is how you execute, not the outcome. That's another important idea that you have to please hammer home to yourself. When you plan your trade, you want to make sure that you set your orders out there to be executed on. I don't want you chasing your orders like it gets there and then starts to go against you. I don't want you seeing a stock run up here and then starts to pull back and then you're trying to get short, in this case, thinking it's going to go down lower, so you're chasing it. No, you want the stock to come up and execute at your price. Set your price, let the stock come to you. If you start chasing stocks, chasing executions, even if it's just a penny, you're going to build a habit of chasing. And you don't want to do that. You want to build a habit of waiting. You wait for the price to execute where you want. That's so important. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this play out real quick. Now I went ahead and canceled the replay, and this is current action of the stock. As you can see, it went down lower than this trend line. I took most of my profits down here. But let me explain what happened during the trade itself. And let me show you the executions and show you how I manage risk. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in. And you'll see that the stock actually popped up to my line and then started to reject. Now, when I start to see some type of rejection, if we go to the 1 minute, you'll see that this first minute candle, we popped and rejected here. So I immediately saw that as a very good indication that it's going to hold. And so I already got in because I put an order out there to get executed. But once it rejected the first candle, I went ahead and sized up more with tight risk on an ad. Meaning, if I lose on the ad, I still am going to be in the trade, but I may take a small loss on the ad. If I don't get stopped out on the ad, it could really benefit me in the long run of taking profits later down the road, which I can make a video on that in the future. That's a whole different topic. I did get faked out of my ad, but then once we rejected again, I got in full size with the original plan and rode it down to the original target. Now, the targets I want to get into with you real quick are those prior levels I talked about. Support becomes resistance, could become support again. I want to take most of my profits in this area. And then at this trend line, because I believed that it could hold, and it did hold for quite some time before breaking. This is how I planned out the trade, and let me show you how I executed it. You'll see that I got in right when it popped up, got a tight ad, cut the ad as I mentioned, and then got full size and rode it down. Now, these first two executions are always super small now. I have learned that taking too big of size can really hurt me. So these first two sells or covers, if you will, are only 1% of my size or less. It is very small. It is just to itch the sensation or the urge to execute a trade and be in the green. Because at the end of the day, if I'm focusing on execution, I need to take my profits at the key areas, which at these two exits of the covers are the majority of my position. This was about 75% of my position. And then when we came down, I just had a little bit left, took that off, and I was done for the day. But here's what I want you to see. You see I get faked out here. As you can see at this area, if we go to the 1 minute, I get faked out right here. If I'm focusing on P&L, if I'm focusing on trying to make money, that could make me irritated, which would make me miss the trade. Or it could make me scared to even take the trade. And then I miss the opportunity and get even more upset and execute on a poorer trade in the future, taking out my anger from this trade. Focus on execution, focus on execution, focus on execution. If you focus there, it will drastically improve your trading. The very worst, you still lose, but at least you can track your execution and it's consistently the same way you execute every single time. And then you can figure out how to tweak it to improve. High time frame to low time frame. Know where you're wrong, plan your trade, execute your plan, and make sure you set your orders where you want to get executed at. And always, always, always focus on execution. Good luck.